When it comes to people of faith, how much they showcase their faith is dependent on the person themselves. After all, many people can be rather private about their beliefs, out of a desire for privacy or out of uncertainty of what people might think about them after they highlight who they are. Not everyone is like Tom Cruise, who can admit his belief system and keep making a myriad of Mission Impossible films. Anyway, while there are many in Hollywood right now that are doing a balance of work and faith, there have been several over the years who have left Hollywood entirely to go and do things in their faiths, whether that be humanitarian work, preaching, or just trying to be closer to their God. Allow us to show you some of these actors. Be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. 7. MC Hammer. Cue the music. Can't touch this. Every once in a while, there is a person that comes along in an industry, regardless if it's acting, music, musicals, etc., and they just resonate with people so much that they instantly become a star. For the man who called himself MC Hammer, this is exactly what happened. His first album was a sensation in all the ways that matter. His breakout hit, Can't Touch This, is still a fan-favorite song to this day, and the awards he got were numerous. In many people's eyes, he was destined for all-time greatness. It didn't happen that way, though. Instead, he became embroiled in debt, his follow-up music didn't land, and he tried his hardest to have a massive lifestyle, complete with a multi-person entourage that he paid for and that sapped all of his wealth in a hurry. The man was a literal meteor. It came in bright and hot and then burned itself out. So he had to pivot, and that pivot came in the form of Christianity. He not only looked to God for guidance, but he became an ordained minister and started preaching and leading musical choirs when he could. During a certain reality show appearance, he took his co-stars to his church and preached before them, and many of them were honestly very moved by this. While MC Hammer has dabbled in Hollywood at times after his fall, he's clearly a different man now. One driven by faith and the desire to do good instead of just being obsessed with wealth. Sometimes you have to fall before you can get up and learn the truth about things. 6. Michelle Williams. To be fair, there are two people in Hollywood and other major industries named Michelle Williams, so we'll be clear here and state that we're talking about the singer, Michelle Williams, whom you might know from the group Destiny's Child. You know, the one that helped Beyoncé get to her megastardom? Yeah, that one. When Michelle Williams was alongside the others, Destiny's Child became one of the best female groups of all time. And no, it wasn't just because of Beyoncé. The others helped, and that's why the group has a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Inevitably, though, Beyoncé would be called to achieve her destiny and become the superstar actor and singer that she is on her own. If you didn't know, she won a Grammy after doing a country album. That's how good she is. As for Michelle Williams, she took a different path and went into music that had a more gospel vibe to it. It actually worked out really well for her, and she made sure to fight the claims that she was doing it just to save her career. I didn't want to do it because it was a fad. I wanted to do it because it's in me. It's in my heart, she said. Her faith has also been a huge part of her overall life, as she's someone who has openly talked about her bouts of depression, which started when she was in her teen years. That meant it was still with her at the peak of her musical fame and all that came after. Her faith has been so strong in her life that when her longtime church was in need of funds to finish construction on the building's repairs, she happily paid them herself. Oh, and she was in all 3 versions of The Masked Singer, so she's clearly still doing her thing when she can. 5. Stephen Baldwin. Yeah, if you're familiar with this particular Baldwin brother, you know exactly what's about to happen. You see, the problem with certain kinds of faith is that if you don't believe it in full and you only see a certain side of it that you like, you're not really participating in the religion or the faith itself. You're just doing what you personally feel is right and am ignoring everything else that goes along with it. In the case of Stephen Baldwin, that's exactly what happened. To his credit, he was a mainstream actor for a time, including coming from the famous Baldwin family, which is revered and is also infamous in Hollywood for various reasons. However, after the events of September 11th in the United States, Stephen Baldwin turned to faith to try and get a better grasp on life itself. In theory, that's a great thing. In practice, not so much. Baldwin would become a bit of a pariah in Hollywood, and even when it offered him positions on reality shows, including Big Brother, to help him speak his mind on stuff, he wouldn't commit to it fully, even quitting shows before they were fully done. That doesn't even talk about his radio show, which is heavily conservative, and the fact that he's endorsed Donald Trump. a man who also claims to follow the Bible in all 3 of his main election campaigns. His status is so bad within his own family that his own brothers have called him out for his antics and even noted that their late father would call him a disgrace. That's not the kind of thing you would want to hear from family. But Baldwin is so immersed in his beliefs that he doesn't care and continues to do his work for all those who would listen to him. 4. Chris Tucker. Going to the opposite end of trying to be better spectrum, let's talk about Chris Tucker. In the 1990s and 2000s, he was arguably one of the funniest people in all of Hollywood. He was in the Friday films and then teamed up with Jackie Chan to do the incredible Rush Hour films. Well, the first 2 were good. We don't talk about the third one. He was so famous that he even was in a Michael Jackson music video among certain stage performances because he could do Michael's moves so well. So what happened? Well, he chose to do a more faith-based life than continue on with Hollywood for the most part. For him, the biggest thing was that he had become known for more vulgar parts than just being a comedian that was there to make people laugh. That was enough for him to give up cursing altogether. We know many people who should try to do such things. To be fair, he's still doing work in Hollywood and he's still doing his stand-up routine. But he's trying to live a cleaner life, and that's to be appreciated. Sometimes it's the smallest of steps that can lead to someone being happy, and that's something we should appreciate. 3. Montell Jordan. Let's now move to someone else who heard the call despite a thriving career and decided to put his faith above everything else. Montell Jordan was a very well-known singer, known for his many tracks and albums, with the most famous of them being This Is How We Do It, which has been used in all sorts of things over the years, including video games. However, eventually, he felt the call of God and was told to basically leave the music industry to go find himself once more in faith. He was more than willing to do this and thus joined Victory World Music and even went on to create his own church with his wife that he made fully online so that anyone all over the world could use it and hear their teachings. A noble idea. He's still doing that in part while also doing different ministries with his wife. One of their main focuses is trying to maintain marriages as a whole, which is also rather noble. Even after leaving the music industry, he has still put out music and has done various shows over the years. But it's clear that he's not going to be fully invested in the industry as he was before, as he has a different calling that he wants to follow through on, and there's nothing wrong with that. Plus, he's probably still making lots of royalties off his hit songs. Just saying. 2. Angus T. Jones. Our next one is a bit more ironic and in more ways than one. Angus T. Jones was the kid from 2.5 Men, a series that has had a lot of people talking over the years, even long after it went off the air. The core cast of Angus T. Jones, John Cryer, and Charlie Sheen was a match made in sitcom heaven. Seriously, the 3 played so well together, and the series head, Chuck Lorre, knew just how to make things work that the show became the biggest thing on the air. To that end, Angus T. Jones became the highest paid child star in the industry. He was making literal millions off the show, and it was all good for him until he found his faith. You see, 2.5 Men wasn't exactly the cleanest show on the air, and it didn't try to hide it either. So, eventually, Jones spoke out and called the show filth, and even noted that he felt like a paid hypocrite for being on it and allowing certain topics to be made fun of when they were a real problem in the world. That outburst led to him being downgraded on the show, and he eventually left it. He's done some faith-based work and charities over the years since, but he's also said that he wants to get back into acting. Whether he does or not remains to be seen. 1. Kevin Sorbo. It only feels right to talk about someone who has gone far beyond what is right within his so-called faith and also only sees what he wants to see. Kevin Sorbo was a well-known actor for a good period of time in the 90s, with some of his most famous roles being a live-action interpretation of Hercules, which even led to the creation of the Xena, Warrior Princess franchise. However, once he found his faith, he went off the rails and literally went out of his mind. He started making certain claims that got him blacklisted in Hollywood, and so he tried to counter that by making his own production company to make more faith-based content. Have you never heard of his films he made through that? That should tell you all you need to know. What made things worse was that, not unlike Stephen Baldwin, he took the side of Donald Trump. And during the COVID epidemic, tried to promote conspiracy theories and lies versus trying to use his faith to help get people the vaccine they needed to be helped and healed. He even tried to claim that the 2020 election that Trump lost was a fraud, when it absolutely wasn't. Many have called him out for his crap, including Xena herself. Looking at all these stories together, it's clear this isn't just a random list of people who walked away from the spotlight. This is about transformation, about identity, about people who lived at the height of fame and still felt like something was missing. For some, it was a slow realization. For others, it came like a lightning strike. But for all of them, it led to a choice: stay in the system that made them rich or step away in search of something deeper. Faith doesn't look the same for everyone. It doesn't always show up in perfect timing or under perfect circumstances. Some of these celebrities left Hollywood because they felt burned out, used up, or spiritually empty. Others did it because they genuinely felt a calling, a pull to change their lives, reach out to others, and use their platform for something greater than fame. But make no mistake, leaving behind money, attention, and prestige isn't easy, especially when you've built your entire identity on it. The world isn't always kind to people who change. And when celebrities take a stand for something, especially something as personal and polarizing as faith, the backlash can be intense. They get mocked, dismissed, branded as has-beens or sellouts. Some even lose their fan bases overnight. But here's the thing, that didn't stop any of the people we just talked about. MC Hammer had to fall from unimaginable heights just to understand what it meant to rise again, this time with purpose, not ego. Michelle Williams faced depression and doubt and still turned around to lift up her church when it needed her most. Montell Jordan gave up a music career others would have killed for just to serve a higher calling that spoke more directly to his heart. And Chris Tucker? He didn't run away from Hollywood. He just started choosing roles and routines that reflected the man he wanted to be, not the one Hollywood thought he was. Not all of these transformations were graceful. Not all of them were received positively. Some, like Stephen Baldwin and Kevin Sorbo, found themselves tangled in politics and controversy, blurring the lines between personal belief and public ideology. But even then, their stories remind us that when someone commits to their faith, it often becomes the lens through which they see everything. That can uplift people, it can divide people, but it always changes them. And then there's Angus T. Jones, a child star who was living every young actor's dream, only to step away from it because he couldn't reconcile what he believed with what he was acting in. That kind of honesty is rare. That kind of sacrifice is even rarer. Think about it. How many actors would give up millions of dollars and a hit TV role just to protect their conscience? It's easy to laugh that off, much harder to understand it, but it shows that no matter how young or how successful you are, your beliefs can shape your path and sometimes change it entirely. In a world that tells you to chase more fame, more money, more fans, more status, these people made the choice to say enough. And that takes guts. It takes vision. It takes a willingness to lose everything you had in order to find something you never did. Does it always work out? Some of them still face ridicule. Some fade into obscurity. Others reinvent themselves again and again, trying to balance who they were with who they've become. But what connects all of them is that they weren't afraid to walk away from the spotlight in pursuit of something they believed in. For every red carpet they left behind, they stepped into something else, whether it was a pulpit, a stage at a local church, a podcast mic for faith-based outreach, or simply a life away from the chaos. These stories aren't about perfection. They're about direction, a pivot, a decision to change course and trust that something greater was waiting on the other side. You may agree with their decisions, you may not, but what you can't deny is the courage it takes to walk away from everything you've ever known, from the world telling you that you already have it all, in search of something that gives your life meaning beyond the fame. And that's all from the various celebrities who have left the life of Hollywood behind, in part or in full, to go and pursue more faith-based activities. Were you surprised by some of the celebs who were on this list? Which ones did you not to expect to see on here, or didn't realize that they had went down such a path? Do you know of another Hollywood star that might go down this path in the future? Let us know in the comments below. Be sure to subscribe, and we'll see you next time on the channel.